Hello students, in this video we discuss DNA replication and its experimental proof. So Watson and Crick, they proposed the double helical structure of DNA. While proposing the double helical structure, Watson and Crick immediately proposed a scheme for replication of DNA. The scheme suggested that the two strands would separate and act as a template for the synthesis of a new complementary strand. So according to them, the DNA replication was semi-conservative, in which one strand would be an old strand and it would synthesize a new strand. After the completion of replication, each DNA molecule would have one parental and one newly synthesized strand. So this scheme was termed as semi-conservative DNA replication. So let us see the stages of DNA replication. So DNA replication can be divided into three stages: initiation, elongation and termination. First, initiation. So initiation of the replication of DNA takes place from a point which is known as the origin of replication. Now this origin of replication can be one or it can be many. There can be many origin of replication in the DNA. In most cases we see in prokaryotes there is one origin of replication, while in case of eukaryotes there can be many origin of replication. So before the replication can begin, the double helix has to be unzipped. So there are different enzymes which help in the unzipping of the double helix. First is the helicase. So helicase, this breaks the hydrogen bond between the complementary bases of DNA, that is A and T and C and G. Then there is another enzyme called the topoisomerase, which unwinds and rewinds the DNA and prevent the DNA from again getting coiled or tangled. Then there are some proteins, single-stranded DNA binding proteins, and this binds with the single-stranded DNA and prevents the winding up of the DNA again. So these are the basically helicase, topoisomerase and these proteins, that is single strand DNA binding proteins, they attach to the DNA and unzip it. So as the portion of the DNA unzips, this formed a Y-shaped structure which is called as the replication fork, and from this the DNA replication starts. Next is the primer binding. So after the DNA has opened up a bit, there is an enzyme called the RNA primase, and this enzyme, it synthesizes a small strand of RNA which is called the primer. So what is the requirement of the primer? The enzyme which forms the new strand of DNA, that is the DNA polymerase, it cannot act without the presence of this primer. So this enzyme, the primase enzyme, it produces a small strand of RNA called the primer. Now one strand of the DNA is oriented in the 3-5' direction, and this is called the leading strand, and the other strand which is oriented in the 5-3' direction is called the lagging strand. So this one, the 3-5' is the leading strand, while the 5-3' is the lagging strand. Now next process is the elongation. So now this polymerase, DNA polymerase, the main enzyme which replicates the DNA, that will now start producing a new DNA from the primers, from the primer, RNA primer. It will attach to the RNA primer and it will produce the new strand. So there are different types of DNA polymerase. The main DNA polymerase which helps in replication is polymerase 3, while there are other types of polymerase which are given different names, and they are responsible for error checking and repair of the DNA. DNA polymerase III binds to the strand at the site of the primer and begin adding new base pairs complementary to the strand during replication. Because the enzyme that carries out replication, DNA polymerase only function in 5'3' direction. So this DNA polymerase can only function in 5'3' direction, so that in one strand it can add the nucleotide one after the another, whereas in other it has to add it in chunks. That is why one strand is called the leading and the other is called the lagging strand. So let us see the difference between the leading and the lagging strand. First, the leading strand. So the 3'5' strand is the leading strand. Why it is leading strand? Because here the DNA polymerase can synthesize the new strand continuously, and therefore it is also known as continuous strand, and this process of replication in the leading strand is also known as continuous replication. This is basically due to this RNA DNA polymerase that produces, that only functions in the 5'3' direction. That is why the DNA polymerase can produce the new strand continuously in the leading strand. Whereas in the lagging strand, the DNA polymerase has to form some fragments of DNA, because it will start from the 5'3' direction, then it has to stop, and when this DNA will further unwind, then it will form another strand. So here in case of lagging strand, the primers are added. As the DNA unzips, the primers are added one by one, and the small fragments are formed. As you can see here, these are called the Okazaki fragments, and that is why the lagging strand, in the lagging strand, the replication is called discontinuous. So here the chunks of DNA called Okazaki fragments are added to the lagging strand between the primers in 5'3' direction, and that is why this is a discontinuous replication. Okay, now let us understand this process with the help of this diagram. So you can see here the DNA polymerase is acting in both the strand. This is the leading strand. Here the DNA is being produced continuously, and this is the new DNA which is being formed. While in the lagging strand, the DNA is formed discontinuously. Small fragments are formed which are called the Okazaki fragments, and this will be then added with the help of an enzyme which is the ligase, DNA ligase. So let us come to the last part of the DNA replication, that is termination. So in one strand, that is the leading strand, continuous replication has taken place and a whole strand of DNA is formed, whereas in the other strand the small fragments are formed which are known as the Okazaki fragments. Now these fragments have to be joined together. These are joined together by an enzyme which is called the DNA ligase. This enzyme joins these Okazaki fragments and it forms a single strand. So after formation of both continuous and discontinuous strands, an enzyme called exonuclease, it removes all the primers. So all the primers that were used for the replication, the RNA primers, these are removed, and the gaps are filled with complementary nucleotides. So now the DNA, from one DNA to DNA, has been formed. So you can see here the ligase is used. This is the DNA ligase which joins the two strands of DNA. Now there is another enzymes. Now other enzymes are there, other polymerases are there which proofreads the newly formed strand. Proofreading means that is if there is any errors in replication, then they are removed. So there are different types of polymerase, as we have already seen that, and they help in removing all the errors in the newly synthesized DNA. And the ligase, as we have already discussed, it joins the Okazaki fragments. So this is how the process of replication take place. Now let us just go through the enzymes that are required for DNA replication. DNA helicase. Helicase is used to unwind the DNA strand. Then DNA primase, that is used for formation of the primer, RNA primer. Then polymerase is the main enzyme. This is not only used for replication, there are also polymerases for proofreading and removing errors in replication. Topoisomerase is also used for unwinding DNA so that it doesn't become tangled or supercoiled. Exonucleases are basically enzymes which remove nucleotides near the end of the DNA chain, and ligase is used for joining the fragments of DNA by forming phosphodiester bonds, mainly the Okazaki fragments. Now we come to the experimental proof of DNA replication. So this was given by Messelson and Stahl. Matthew Messelson and Franklin Stahl gave this experimental proof in 1958, and they used this bacteria E. coli, Escherichia coli, and they grew this bacteria in a medium containing ammonium chloride, in which the nitrogen in ammonia was a heavy nitrogen, so that this heavy nitrogen was incorporated in the DNA of the bacteria. This bacteria was grown for many generations in heavy nitrogen, and then it was transferred to normal nitrogen N14. This is a medium containing nitrogen ammonium chloride having normal nitrogen, and this was grown for 20 minutes because the bacteria, it reproduces in 20 minutes, it will duplicate in 20 minutes, and then again this results were taken, and then after 20 minutes again the results were taken. So every 20 minutes they were analyzed, and then this the bacteria were then centrifuged in this type of centrifugation, density gradient centrifugation, where the cesium chloride density gradient centrifugation, and therefore the DNA formed like this bands, as you can see here, depending on the density. So it was depending on the density. The heavy DNA formed, it was heavier, so it was at the bottom, and the lighter DNA was above it. So depending on the density, the different layers of were formed. So what was the experiment? So in this experiment, this E. coli, as we had already said, that this was grown in N15 medium, a medium containing N15, that is heavy nitrogen, for many generations, so that the DNA of this bacteria had N15 in them incorporated. The nitrogen in the, as you know, the DNA has nitrogenous bases, and the nitrogen in the bases were heavy nitrogen. Then after that the bacteria was grown in a medium containing N14, and then after 20 minutes it was centrifuged. Again after 20 minutes, that is 40 minutes, it was centrifuged, and after 60 minutes it was centrifuged, and it was found that the different based on the centrifugation gradient, it was found that different types of centrifugation. In the first case, these were two hybrids, as we can see, because it was grown in N14. So one was the old DNA which had N15 heavy isotope, while the new DNA synthesized had N14 in the first generation. So in the first generation, in the centrifuge, there was only a single layer. Then in the second generation, that is after 40 minutes, it was found that there was two layers. One was the DNA which had both strands made up of N14, and another DNA that had one strand made up of N14 and one strand made up of N15. So they had two layers in the centrifuge, as you can see here. There were two layers in the centrifuge, and similarly, as generation after generation, the amount of light DNA became more, and the amount of heavy DNA became less and less, and it became negligible after some generation. So by this experiment they could prove that the replication of DNA was semi-conservative, and that is why this experiment had such result. That is why the centrifuge, in the first case it had one, the centrifugation after it had one layer, and then it had two layers. So that was due to the result of the density gradient centrifugation, and this proved that DNA replication was semi-conservative.